Okay, here we have a small PA system, and this tutorial is looking at adding external effects units. The effects unit I'm going to be using is this device here in the rack, and this is a Lexicon MPX100 multi-effects unit, and it's got some rather interesting built-in effects. I'm going to get those working coming out of the speakers. In addition to the effects unit, I'm also using a small 16-channel analog mixing console, a power amp which is going off to my main monitors, which is actually just a wedge monitor over there for this particular tutorial, and a microphone for me to talk into. So first thing you need to do is plug in your microphone, sound check it. I've talked through that in another video tutorial. So as you can hear, the sound is already coming through and it's been sound checked, the microphone and everything is working. Okay, so plugging in effects units, come round to the back of the mixing desk. I'm going to be using this rather colourful looking loom, 8-way loom. Colours on one end and then on the other end as well. It's basically just 8 jack-to-jack leads piled together in one nifty little cable. I'm going to be using auxiliaries to send the sound out to the effects unit. That's really important. Same as setting up monitors as well, using auxiliary sends for external effects units like reverbs and multi-effects units and stuff like that. So on this desk, the auxiliaries are just down here. It says aux 1, 2 and 3. You probably can't see that on the camera. And I'm going to plug in the white cable into aux 1. Now that's going to be the send going from the mixing desk over to my effects unit there. So I'm going to find the other white cable on the other end, which is here. And I'm looking for the input of the effects unit. So I'm going to come down here, and it's quite hard to see on the camera, but over here is the Lexicon device, the back of it, and there's the input section. I have left, I have right inputs. It's a stereo input. I'm only going to be using a mono feed going into this device, and then I'm going to use a stereo return coming out of it. In most cases it's perfectly acceptable to send a mono send from the mixing desk into an effects unit, but it does give you the opportunity for stereo input should you choose to use it. So I'm just plugging into the right input, which has got mono in brackets underneath it, the white cable, and the other end is hooked up to my aux send, aux number 1 on the mixing desk. I'm then going to plug in the outputs. Obviously we've plugged in the sound, it's being sent from the desk, from the microphone over to the effects unit. I want to hear the effect coming out, and coming out the speaker, so I've got to send the output of the effects unit back to the desk. I'm going to choose a couple more cables. This time I'm going to use the red cable, and I'm going to plug into output right, and I'm going to use the black cable, and I'm going to plug into output left. Okay, I've got my red and black cable plugged into the outputs of the effects unit. I'm going to find the red and black cable on the other end of the wiring loom, which is just down here. Red and black. And I'm going to plug that into the return inputs. There's a dedicated return section on this desk for effects. You'll find that on most mixing desks. If you don't have a return section, which is kind of common with most desks, then you could always plug it into the line inputs on a couple of channels on your desk. The only reason I'm using returns is that it means I free up all my 16 channels for microphone inputs rather than wasting them on effects. So that's the plus side of using these independent returns. The plus side of using line inputs and actually plugging it into a channel is that you could then EQ the effect and have a bit more kind of control over it. Anyway, so I'm going to plug into the return section. It's just labelled up for RET1, it means return 1, and I'm plugging my red into the right input. These are stereo returns, and I'm plugging the black into the left input. So I've got my returns coming back now from the effects unit. Okay, next thing to do is to get the sound sending over to the effects unit. This one has got some handy little lights on it, so if those lights start lighting up as I'm talking into the microphone, then I'll know that I'm sending the sound to the effects unit correctly and it's actually making its way there. So to send the sound, we plugged it in, remember, to auxiliary number 1. So first of all, I'm going to turn up the master auxiliary, which is on the master section of the mixing desk, and it's located just here, aux 1. I'm going to turn that up around about sort of halfway to start off with. I can increase it more should I need more level going to the effects unit. And then over on the channel, I'm going to turn up the aux 1 send level. With effects, you don't need the pre-switch down, that can be out. It's kind of common for effects to be in post-fade, aux sends, meaning that it's post-fader, so therefore if you had a big reverb on a vocal and then you turn down the vocal in the mix or do a fade out, the reverb goes with it and doesn't linger around, which usually is what you want to have. So post-fade aux sends for effects units. Okay, so now if I talk into the microphone and we have a look, 1, 2, we can see that there are some lights lighting up, so my send is working correctly and is making its way to the effects unit. And I'm going to just choose a bit of delay and echo, making sure all my other levels are kind of about halfway, mix, input level, output level, effects balance, and it all looks good. Okay, so finally we want to hear the effect coming back. So I need to find the return section on the mixing desk. The return section on this particular desk is over on the master section. It's usually where returns from effects units are found. And we have a return level to the mix output located here. So I'm going to sort of bring that up a little bit, talk into the microphone hopefully. 1, 2, hey, hey. And we can hear there's a little bit of delay on the vocal. I could turn it up a bit more if I want to hear a bit more of that effect. Hey, hey, 1, 2. Excellent. So next to the send level of the return going to the mix output, I've also got this option as well to send the delay back in to the delay unit. So this is an output to an auxiliary. So typically, I mean, your auxiliaries may be hooked up to monitors, so if you had an effect coming back on the returns, you might want to dial some of the reverb or delay through to the musician's monitor, so you would turn up this level. In this case, if I turn up aux 1 send level, the result is going to be a feedback loop, which sounds quite cool, and has been used in the past for various genres of music, like old dub reggae, so we'll give that a go and you'll hear what that sounds like. 1, 2. Hey, test. So you can hear the feedback, the onset of feedback starts. It's a little bit sci-fi, quite fun. You can do those kind of tricks and have a bit more control. You could do filtering and stuff on the EQs if you bring your returns back in on a channel, which is quite fun. So that is effects sends using external effects units on a small PA system.